Did the author of It Ends With Us quietly pick sides behind the scenes? A newly revealed email shows Colleen Hoover sending a massive 67-point list praising changes in Blake Lively's version of the film, while raising serious questions about the other cut connected to Justin Baldoni. Some of these notes are incredibly specific, down to single lines of dialogue and even seconds of screen time, and now people are wondering what this really says about the creative battle behind the movie. Hello, beautiful people. This is Talia. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're breaking down that email, the 67 changes that were highlighted, and what they might reveal about what was really happening behind the scenes during the making of It Ends With Us.
The conversation around the film adaptation of It Ends With Us has taken another unexpected turn, and this time it centers on a document that reveals far more than many people initially realized. What was previously described as a list of 57 reasons explaining why Colleen Hoover preferred Blake Lively's version of the film over the version associated with Justin Baldoni turns out to be much longer. The list isn't 57 items at all. It's actually 67 separate notes and observations. The document appears in an email Hoover sent on May 20th, 2024, addressed to studio executive Josh Greenstein. In the email, Hoover shares detailed reactions after watching Blake Lively's cut of the film, outlining dozens of moments she appreciated, small changes she supported, and specific adjustments she believed strengthened the story. The email itself is revealing from the very beginning. Hoover thanks Greenstein for granting her access to Blake's version of the movie and explains that she included all her notes directly in the email as well as in a separate document because of how extensive they were. She even acknowledges that the message might come across as overly long, joking that writers tend to be wordy. What stands out, however, is the context she provides about her relationship with Blake Lively at that point in time. Hoover explicitly says she doesn't actually know Blake well, yet she still wants Blake to be aware of how much she appreciated the changes made in this version. Her reasoning is that by recognizing Blake's creative decisions and explaining why she liked them, Blake might be more receptive to Hoover's suggestions, even though Hoover admits she has never worked in film before and is approaching the project primarily from the perspective of a novelist. Hoover also clarifies that the list was originally meant only for Greenstein to read first. She suggests they could discuss the points together before passing them along, indicating that some of the notes might involve delicate feedback. She even mentions that some of the observations could overlap with ideas she previously shared with Baldoni, which makes it clear she was attempting to track which creative decisions came from which version of the film. From there, the long list begins. The first note focuses on the opening shot of the movie. Hoover describes a moment where the camera lowers and settles on Blake Lively's character sitting on a rooftop, looking contemplative and emotionally heavy. Hoover praises the visual expression, saying the character appears thoughtful and burdened by something significant. She suggests that beginning the film with that quiet rooftop moment, combined with voiceover and flashbacks, would closely mirror how the story begins in the novel. In the book, the protagonist is also sitting on a rooftop, reflecting on her thoughts, and Hoover believes that aligning the film's opening with that imagery would immediately resonate with the millions of readers who know the story. She contrasts this with another version of the film that begins differently, mentioning scenes involving a funeral or a house sequence that do not appear in the original book. In Hoover's view, shifting the opening toward the rooftop scene would create a sense of recognition and satisfaction for longtime fans. She argues that such a small adjustment could significantly improve the tone of the beginning, which she describes as somewhat confusing in one version and overly cheesy in another. For her, grounding the film in a moment that directly reflects the novel's opening would provide a stronger emotional entry point. The next few notes continue to focus on small but specific moments. Hoover highlights a sequence where a flashback involving Lily's father opening a door happens at the same time as Ryle suddenly bursting onto the rooftop. She explains that the timing of those two events made the scene more dramatic and effective, even saying it made her jump. In another note, she compliments a change involving Ryle kicking a chair. In the earlier version, the action apparently happened repeatedly, but in the revised cut, it occurs only once. Hoover believes this subtle alteration softens the character slightly, making him feel less aggressive in that moment and making Lily's decision to stay and talk with him more believable.
Another detail she mentions involves a napkin scene on the rooftop. Lily is folding a napkin and something meaningful is written on it. Hoover points out that the camera doesn't clearly show the numbers written on the napkin before it gets crumpled. She suggests allowing the audience just a split second longer to see it, explaining that some viewers might otherwise assume Lily is simply holding a tissue because she has been crying. While she acknowledges that the scene still works either way, she believes that a clearer visual cue would help viewers understand the significance of the object. As the list continues, Hoover begins referencing dialogue and character interactions. One moment she particularly enjoys happens after Ryle tells Lily he doesn't kiss on the mouth. In Blake Lively's version, Lily responds with a playful, "Oh, bummer." Hoover loves this addition because it subtly shows that Lily is intrigued by him. In her view, that small line strengthens the romantic tension between the characters and hints earlier that Lily finds him attractive. Another scene Hoover discusses involves a heavy conversation where Ryle reveals a traumatic experience. She suggests pausing slightly longer on his facial expression before he speaks, allowing the audience time to sense that something is troubling him. Hoover believes this extra moment would give viewers emotional space to absorb Lily's earlier confession before Ryle introduces his own painful story. Since the subject matter is serious, she thinks a brief pause would make the moment feel more natural and less abrupt. At one point, Hoover even questions whether a particular line from the novel should remain in the film at all. In the scene, Lily reacts to Ryle's story by commenting on what such an experience might do to a young boy, and Ryle responds that it would destroy him for life. Although the exchange comes directly from the book, Hoover admits it may not translate well on screen. She suggests the scene might work better if Lily simply reacts silently with facial expressions rather than through dialogue, allowing the emotion to be conveyed visually rather than through dialogue. Hoover's commentary also becomes personal at times. When discussing the famous line where Ryle bluntly says he wants to have sex with Lily, Hoover admits that she has always felt uneasy about that moment because she originally wrote it herself. Reading it aloud or seeing it performed feels strange to her, yet she acknowledges that the line is essential to the story's structure. Even so, she praises Blake Lively's reaction in the scene and notes that Lily encouraging Ryle to say something shocking works better in this version. Her only suggestion is to extend the moment slightly so the audience can see Ryle thinking before he blurts out the line. The list continues with even smaller details, such as a humorous line Lily delivers after a kiss where she jokingly realizes Ryle is a neurosurgeon. Hoover strongly supports keeping that moment because it adds levity. She also notes that Blake removed a particular line exchange at the end of the rooftop scene and replaced it with a flashback transition, which Hoover says she actually prefers to the original ending. By the time the notes reach the 12th and 13th items, Hoover is pointing out things as tiny as spelling errors visible in a journal entry written by young Lily. She worries that attentive readers might notice grammatical mistakes on screen and become distracted. In another comment, she questions why a character smells food pulled from the trash can, suggesting the scene might feel strange if viewers focus on it too long. As the list moves towards its 15th entry, Hoover continues analyzing small character moments involving young Lily and Atlas. She appreciates that some scenes showing Lily nervously choosing what to wear were shortened because she feels extended hesitation doesn't match Lily's confident personality.
She even notices camera movements involving mirrors and suggests subtle edits that might make the visual perspective clearer for the audience. By this point in the email, the sheer level of detail becomes obvious. Hoover isn't just offering general feedback, she's dissecting individual seconds of footage, character expressions, props, camera angles, and dialogue delivery. And this is still only the beginning of the list. Even reaching the 15th note reveals how extensive her commentary is, especially considering the full document contains 67 separate points.